wide was our foresires' lore, but only these, the northern branch, were masters of the old dark alchemy that from the barley frees the last elixir, in whose liquid gold the essences of shining summers dwell, the peaty fragrance of the snow-fed burns, the mystery that none may ever tell, while still the heather to the hill returns. The mystery that none may ever tell, while still the heather to the hill returns. Who are the keepers of the mystery? What is the secret of Scotch whisky? Whence comes its particular appeal? Why can't it be made anywhere else in the world? These are questions which have long awaited response. The secret is locked in the heart of Scotland, and even those who make it do not themselves know the full answer. For Scotch whisky is of Scotland. It is Scotland, and its qualities defy the analysts as steadfastly as the Scot himself through history has defied the efforts of others to subjugate him. The real character of Scotch can only be produced in the land of its birth. Perhaps part of the answer, but certainly not all, can be found in the fertile fields whose rich soil supports the crops of barley, which will later find themselves clean and steeped in fresh water and spread out on the malting floors at one of the many distilleries. Only the very best quality can be used, and each delivery is carefully checked before it is stored in the barley loft. The process begins when the barley is steeped in water for some 60 hours. Here again, even at this early stage, we find a reason for the distinctive quality of the whisky which will ultimately appear, for the water is the water of the Highlands, pure, fresh and crystal clear, the water which bubbles from the mountain springs. Issuing from the red granite, these burns have pointed out the very sites that the distilleries themselves must occupy. But back inside, the barley has been spread on the malting floor, after steeping, that is to say, soaking in water. This process brings about certain changes, the outward sign of which can be seen in the growth of the barley corn. Wearing special boots, the maltmen control the rate of growth by turning the barley with their flat wooden shovels, called shills. There is no hard and fast rule controlling germination. Experience alone, passed down from generation to generation, is the yardstick by which the maltman knows. Then comes the next stage. The green malt will be dried in a kiln. The kiln is a pagoda-like structure so typical of Scottish distilleries, and the fuel used for drying is usually peat. Peat is cut from the peat mosses on the heather-clad moors. Centuries have gone into the formation of these rich deposits, and cutting it is work for strong hands. The peat reek, as it is called, passes through a perforated floor high up in the kiln to dry and permeate the malted barley. After a mellowing period of storage, the malt is ground in a mill, and we next see it passing into the mash tun with water heated to a temperature of 150 degrees Fahrenheit, looking like real Scotch porridge. Revolving rakes stir the mixture from time to time, and at the end of an hour or so, the infusion, now known as wurtz, is drawn off for cooling. The solid residue left behind is named draff. It is a valuable cattle food, and over a quarter of the original barley is used in this way. Meanwhile, the washbacks, the name given to the vast fermenting vessels, are being cleaned and made ready. As the cooled amber-coloured worts flows into the washbacks, yeast is added and the process of fermentation is underway. The mixture seethes and bubbles of its own accord. So violent is the reaction that rotating arms or switchers have to be set in motion to prevent the mixture overflowing. Now we come to the crux of the whole process. The fermented liquid, no longer wort but wash, is to be distilled twice in pot stills before the final whisky is obtained. Below, the very stoking of the fires is a job demanding experience, for temperatures must be strictly controlled. Many distillers believe that in the shape of their stills, resembling giant pots, may reside some of the secret virtue of Scotch whisky. It is certain, however, that at this stage nearly all depends on the experience and inherited skill of the stillman. The sounding note of the bobbin, or striking block, tells the experienced ear that the wash is not rising too high, for it is the vapours, not the liquid, that are wanted, and there must be no risk of boiling over. With the actual distilling underway, the excise officer is an interested party, for he represents taxation and the revenue, and the lock and key have become an essential part of the proceedings. The vapour passes to the worm in the cooling tubs outside the building, here shown empty of the cooling water to reveal the coiled piping of the worm. This is the apparatus for condensing the vapours to liquid again, and this liquid in turn is redistilled in the second, the spirit still. The distillate at both stages passes through the spirit safe, which is securely locked. Here the distiller makes his tests without direct contact, aided partly by simple instruments which can be adjusted from outside the safe, but far more by the knowledge handed down by his father and grandfather before him. The stillman can tell when the magic moment has arrived, and he finds himself making real whisky. The cooper, here seen hard at work, long year. If Scotch is Scotch,